Oh, yes. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the 50th episode of Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. I'm fired up, you guys. 50 episodes deep. I'd like to thank each and every one of you that has been watching, whether it's your first time watching or whether you've been with me since the very beginning. It means a lot to get to this milestone. Almost 2,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, almost 3,000 Twitter followers, and I owe it all to you guys. Thank you so much for giving a shit about the work that we do here on this channel. Thank you for caring about the UFC and sharing my love for my favorite sport by a country mile out of all of them. So it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Check out the Patreon that is scrolling across the bottom of the screen if you haven't already. $5 a month to get the stats that I give out for free every week on Just the Tip, but get them about a week earlier than you would get them normally. And $20 a month if you want to get that awesome prop template that has all the over-under and all the analytics for 3 and 5 round fights sorted by division and by possible bet. But we got a little bit of a good card coming up this weekend, everybody. UFC Vegas 63. Going through it today. There's some exciting fights. There's some really exciting fighters, man. You know, credit to the UFC for putting together the Durden Mota fight. Credit to the UFC for putting the C-Rod Weems fight together. That got the card from 9 fights up to 11. And it makes it a lot more watchable. And these are some really good prospects that we're going to see in these fights. Chase Hooper's on this card, who is a fantastic prospect and who really showed out last time. We got Ugly Man Joe going up against Junyong Park. You know, we've got, veteran heavyweights and Arlovski against the Lima. And then Hawes and Dolidze, a couple of stud middleweights there. And then Jacoby and Rountree up at 205. Fremd Gore, a couple of really good young prospects there at 185. This is a great card. This is a fun card. From a betting perspective, I'm starting to see some things kind of show themselves to me. I got a little bit of a hangover from UFC 280. Wound up down 1.09 units for UFC 280. Peter Yan was the ass shaving of the week. That did not come through. I don't know what you guys thought of the decision. I thought Yan won the fight, but I thought that it was very close and could have went either way. I thought Sean probably did do more damage in that fight. But great effort by Sean O'Malley. Big ups to him. I talked a lot of shit about him last week, and I didn't think he was going to be up to that task of lasting 3 rounds with Peter Yan, but he absolutely was up to the task, and he made it an incredibly close fight. But either way, you know, that one didn't work out, and even if Yan had won the decision, you know, that's not an ass shaving. That was a very, very close fight. So looking to find something that will be an ass shaving this week, and I do have something on tap for you guys, so to speak here. But we're going to break down all 11 of these fights. I want to say what's up to everybody that's hanging out in the chat with us right now. The first one in the room, let me see what we got up here. Let me scroll back up to the top, is, hey, Chicago legend, my guy, Kanye Ye West, saying, "Oi, yes, since I'm no longer a billionaire, I thought I would watch Just the Tip so I can triple my net worth. Ye out." Welcome, Ye. Kanye, one of my favorite rappers from back in the day, man. Some of those early production jobs that you did, working with Common Sense, early registration, college dropout, all kinds of good stuff, man. The biggest sin that Kanye West has done, and everybody's talking about it now, was the auto-tune. You know, so, you know, maybe we can forgive him for that. But Kanye West in the room, appreciate you hanging out, brother. And we got Mushroom in the room saying, "Oh, yes, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Orange bag beatings, rants, ass shavings, and a bunch of degens in the chat. Must be Tuesday night. Let's fucking go. Let's do it, my man." We got Bob Spikerman's checking in saying, "Thanks, Weezy. As always, let's stack them up this week, everybody. I'm almost up 70 units for the year and very motivated to finish strong." That is an incredible year, Bob. Big up yourself, man, for being up 70 units. And it is always good to be sharing the chat with people like you who help make everything better here, bring the positivity, and bring the winning bets with us. We got my guy Daz Files in the room saying congrats on turning over 50 episodes. Smooth Jimmy, appreciate you, my man. You have been here since the very beginning, Daz Files, and I appreciate you for that, brother. We got Grateful Dude, another one of the guys that's been here since the very beginning, saying thanks for 50 episodes. I appreciate you, Grateful Dude. I believe Grateful Dude was the first person to subscribe to my Patreon, so I owe you a debt of gratitude as well, my man. I appreciate you. And then one of the great people that I've met out there now as a result of doing this for 50 episodes of Just the Tip is my guy Lou Betya, saying congrats on 50 episodes, use guy. Can you tell me in great detail your favorite moment from each show, preferably ranked? Also, please copy the results in Excel for easy download. I saw that comment earlier, and you can get that description you can get to that link in the description of this video. All 50 episodes ranked by favorite episode or by favorite moment and a favorite bet. So yeah, go check that out, Lou. Always good to see you in here, brother. My guy from the MMA Engine just did a great show with Paul Shaughnessy last week called Props to Consider and Maybe Bet. Always check out Lou, and check out Lou, who's doing a great NFL show with my guy Wiz Bets right now on Wiz's channel. So another great thing there, and I know that they made a bunch of money this week with their bets. We got my guy Vic De Jesus saying, "Oi, yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? What's up, Vic? It's good to see you in here, brother." We got M.A. Laren saying, "Oi, Unk, can I watch you live today as the time difference catches me in sparring time, but I wanted to bring some positivity to this annoyingly, constantly mutating card. I appreciate you stopping by and hanging out, even if you can't hang out live. Hopefully you'll watch it on the replay." And he says, "Happy 50th anniversary of sorts. Thanks for your sublime work, quite literally changing the game." I appreciate that, man. Effectively benefiting your followers' bankrolls. You are truly the betting educational OG master. Those are some very, very kind words, M.A. Laren. But I got to tell you, man, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants on this business here, man. I've been watching some of the best to do it who have been doing it since long before I got into the game about a year ago. Started tracking my bets just a little over a year ago and doing this show. I've had the fortune of doing shows and meeting great people in this business who are absolutely great at breaking down fights. I remember back in the day watching Cody Safdie on the Dogger Pass podcast, watching my guy Brady, DFS by the Numbers, on his channel and subscribing to his Patreon. I've got to work with my guy Luke, Sparring with Reality Betting, just listening to him, the way that he breaks down fights in such a neutral, analytical manner. When I was sharing the screen with him doing the DraftKings show on Pub Sports Radio, that was somebody that I've learned a ton from. I've learned a lot from everybody whose content that I digest the same as you guys do. You know, we learn a little bit of something from all of them, and the way that I'm shaping my approach to gambling is a lot like I'm taking little bits and pieces from what all the other great winning gamblers, somebody like Lucrative MMA over there in Australia or New Zealand or London or wherever he is this week, traveling, doing it big. He's a guy that, does great educational content in terms of how to be a long-term winner and, what pitfalls to avoid, bankroll management. All that stuff is so important, everybody. And it takes time to learn how to do it. It takes time to put it all together into a betting philosophy. And I am evolving and trying to get better with the rest of you. But those are some very kind words, M.A. Laren. I truly appreciate that, man. It means a lot. Josh Locke's in the room saying, "Sup, Weezy? Congratulations on your 50th episode of Just the Tip." I appreciate that, Josh. 3 favorite bets this week. Joe Holmes, big time plus money number there. A lot of power, 100% finish rate. Dustin Jacoby, one of the best kickboxers in the 185-pound weight class, and Arnold Allen. We're going to break down all those fights, and I'll let you know what I'm thinking on those, Josh. Rob Lawrence saying, "Oi, congrats, brother, 50th episode. I appreciate you, Rob." Cole Stein saying, "Congrats on 50, Unk. Best Tuesday show. Thank you, my man." Bob saying, "Congratulations, boss." We got Mushroom saying, "What's up to Rob?" We got Mushroom saying, 50 of many more to come. Congrats, Unk. I appreciate you, Mushroom. Prince of Mischief saying, oi, yes. Hey, Weezy, last week I asked you what would be the craziest thing we'll see at 280. After watching the card, what is your updated answer? For me, it would be Sean O'Malley looking like a top 5 bantamweight. That was pretty fucking crazy to me. Another one was Beneil Dariush after a very long layoff and after a nasty, nasty spiral fracture of his, I don't know if it was the tibia or the fibula, but whatever it was, it fucked him up bad and had him out for a while. And the way that he scrambled and out-grappled one Mateusz Gamrot and outstruck him on the feet was just an absolute masterclass performance. Another surprising thing was how incredible Islam Makhachev's striking looked. He outstruck Oliveira on the feet. My God, what an incredible thing. And then TJ Dillashaw having a shoulder that has popped out 20 times, but not pulling out of the fight. I mean, that was fucking wild. It was a wild night. I'm kind of feel lucky that I only lost 1.08 units, because if that main event had went to decision, I would have been down 9. So I'm glad I hit that max bet. But either way, man, incredible card. And my guy Jeff saying, "All right, I'll roll one up for the 50th." Oh, there you go, Jeff. That's the best way to enjoy just the tip. King Bicky saying, Gamrot screwed my parlay of 35-1. Yikes, man. Yeah. Beneil Dariush fucked that up for a lot of people, man. But I was on Beneil. I did not bet him, unfortunately. I was really worried about the layoff and the ankle injury, and I had to see him perform, before I could put money on him. But I did not have money on Gamrot, so I'm happy to say that my read said if Beneil was healthy, that it was going to be a very close fight, but I didn't think he was going to look that good, man. Josh saying, let's go. We got Snapple Facts number 270. Colors like red, yellow, and orange make you hungry. Interesting. I did not know that. We got Mush, what's up, brother, saying Rob Lawrence. We got, I thank the world for the Weezy and the God for Jesus and the Jared Vanderaa. Alex Ramirez, the general, is in here taking notes. The king of NPC saying it's one of the worst robberies I've ever seen. I don't know if it was that bad of a robbery, but I definitely had Peter Yan winning 2 of those rounds. I had him winning the first and the second. I had O'Malley winning the third. And I know that I don't know if anybody really had O'Malley winning that fight except for the 2 men at cage side. But I know there were some people who were happy about Sean's win. And I was blown away by his performance. Josh saying that Gamrot fucked his parlay up too. It was obvious who won, even if it was a competitive, though. I thought Jing Liang was a closer fight, to be honest. The Jing Liang against Rodriguez fight, where Rodriguez won, I thought Jing Liang won that fight, actually. Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Pink Floyd saying, thought Yan won a close fight, but definitely gained respect for Sugar. I'm right there with you, Pink Floyd. That's exactly how I feel about it. And then we got John Freeman saying, leave the like, guys. I appreciate you, John. Thanks for hanging out, my man. Rob Lawrence saying, if Jared doesn't win, he's out of here. Oh, yeah, he'll be 2-6, I think, in the UFC if he doesn't win. And one of those 2 wins against one Harry Hunsucker. Natural Born Swimmer saying, happy 50th episode. Appreciate you. Alex saying, oi. Jenna Marie saying, what's up, Weezy? Oi. Gabriel Gonzalez saying, first-time watcher, AZ Low Roller, poor NDN. I don't know what NDN is, but welcome, Gabriel. Hey, it's your first time, man. Let's have some fun. Watch the show, and let's see if we can find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks this week, man. Antonio Esparza. Arnold Allen is about to embarrass Kattar, right? Also, what's up, Unc? I don't think he's about to embarrass Calvin Kattar. I don't know if anyone's done that yet except for Max Holloway. And if Arnold Allen winds up doing what Max Holloway did, that is going to be one hell of a night for the young man. Alex saying, press the like button. I appreciate you. Jenny saying, my cousin doppelganger, Victor De Jesus, what's up? We got Bob saying, thank you for the shout out, Weezy. I owe a lot to you, man. I'm unfortunately in a bad financial dip in my life. If I wasn't, I would smash your Patreon and add donations for you, brother. You deserve it too. I appreciate that, Bob. Get that together. Get rid of that financial dip. find ways to save some money, make some good financial decisions, and we'll see if we can continue to grow that bankroll this year, man. Uncle Weezy, do any of my comments get ranked in your favorite moments breakdown? Actually, I was lying about providing that breakdown. I feel terrible. I lied to everybody. I haven't done that yet. That would take a very long time for me to go back and watch 50 episodes of Just the Tip at 2 hours an episode and then rank my favorite moments. But Mushroom has so many classic comments in all of my online content that I would not even be able to name them, but they are all up there. Of course, Mushroom, what up, says Jenna. Bob saying, and it's an honor spending my time here with all you guys. I appreciate that, man. We got Damon Targaryen saying, oh yes, from Westeros at Manscaped. Get your shit together and sponsor the ass shaving of the week. Promo code Weezy. Come on, Manscaped. Dude, I'm with you, dude. I mean, who are we crapping here? How the hell are they not supposed? I mean, I guess the marketing department just hates money. It could happen to any marketing department. Some people just hate money, and maybe Manscaped's marketing department is one of those examples right there of an entity or a group of people that hate money, hate success, and hate advertising with content creators that just make too much sense in terms of a cooperative crossover. Like I said, your Uncle Weezy does have a marketing degree from the Harvard of the Midwest, everybody. Northern Illinois University. That's where champions are made. Go Huskies. And we got Papa Chuck in the room saying, as I sneak in late to class, shh, what's up, Teach? What's up, Papa Chuck? Thanks for hanging out. We got Hagboard Celine saying, oh, we got Metalinga saying, oh, we got Prince of Mischief saying, ass shaving prediction, Waldo Cortes-Acosta. You're gonna have to wait till the end, Prince of Mischief, but that is a man that's been shaving some ass lately. Mushroom at Papa Chuck. What's up, pup? We got Papa Chuck saying, yo, Mushroom, what up, homie? We got Hagbird Celine saying, I had a 5-unit loss, 40 units on the whole of 280. O'Malley, the judges, and Makachev saying my night, to be honest. Yeah, 40 units on the whole. God damn, and you lost 5. So it's a 12%, 12.5% return on investment negative. But I know that my greasy 4-legger hit 3 legs again. We hit the Rosa by decision. We hit the fight doesn't go to decision for Mokaev. We hit Islam Makhachev's money line. Sean Brady by decision was looking really good up until that one right hand that Bilal landed after he started pressuring him late in that second. And man, oh man, big up Bilal Muhammad. What a fucking performance that was, dude. Another surprising thing to see Bilal Muhammad finish a fight and finish an opponent as high level as Sean Brady. Papa saying, as for Benil, I always find it funny when Bible thumpers make their money by fighting. It's that Jesus power. Yeah, man. Yeah, dude, he looked fantastic. I got O'Malley at plus 350, and I think it was closer than that. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely closer than that. My guy Dan Goldstein in the room hanging out, and plus 350 is a great place to get it, man. Yeah, and it was much closer than that. Also, afternoon degenerates. Good to see you hanging out, Dan. My guy Luke sparring with reality saying, think for Vanderaa might surprise some people this week. Dude, you know what would be really surprising to me, Luke, is if Vanderaa ever showed any fight IQ or got that fight IQ to sub-zero, from sub-zero to actually a positive number. I've never seen somebody make so many frustratingly bad decisions in the cage, in addition to the frustratingly bad decisions of, for instance, tattooing a Faustian pentagram underneath your left ear and painting your, fingernails black. The bad decisions from Jared Vanderaa are just constantly coming. The walking concussion. Let's see if he can be cleared to fight on fight day. And, God, Jared Vanderaa is awful. So he might surprise some people by even looking more awful than usual. But, yeah, I watched the tape on this Costa, and, I mean, I think he's pretty good. He's pretty athletic. We'll see if Vanderaa can win a kickboxing match with him. And he's definitely, there's a lot of advantages that Vanderaa does have in this fight, if I'm being, not trying to be funny here. And we're definitely going to talk about it. Can't wait to get into that one. Good to see my guy Luke hanging out in here. One of the OGs. Go sub to that Club and Sub podcast, you guys, please. It's embarrassing that these guys don't have 1,000 subs already, as I was watching them for at least a year before I even did my first show. So please do your Uncle Weezy a favor, get over there and give the Club and Sub boys a fucking subscribing to their YouTube channel, if you please. Just do that for me today, please. All of yous. Mushroom saying, at Dan Goldstein, what's up, brother? We got Hagbard Celine saying that Papa Chuck fighting, it makes them cross. Yeah, it does. Dan saying, I'm glad I made this show live to advocate for autism and Down syndrome. Respect for sure. Oh, Dan Goldstein and Mushroom and all these guys always bringing the fire comments, man. What's up to Shroom and the boys? NDN short for poor engine, not politically correct. Okay. Did not know that one, my man. My guy Blood Bunny, Cody in the room saying, Weezy, what's up, brother? You got some sharp dudes in your chat, and you're one of them. And, dude, if you haven't checked out Blood Money, this guy's on a crazy winning streak, man. I think like 8 out of the last 9 events. Big up, Blood Money, dude. This guy is taking care of business. Keep it rolling, man. Can keep stacking them like flapjacks. Dan saying the best comments are the ones where Weezy is in someone else's show and you fuck up his train of thoughts. That's funny. Papa Chuck saying what's up to everybody. We got Dan Goldstein saying what's up to Chuck. We got Kevin saying happy 50th. I appreciate you, Kevin. Bob saying, yeah, I had 3 units on Gamrot as well. Also, huge bet on TJ. And Peter Yan still managed to make a nice profit. That's unbelievable that you can come over those 3 bets and like not knowing the inside information on TJ hurts. Peter Yan losing a very, very close decision and a fight that I thought he won, but still a very close fight. And then, Gamrot surprised a lot of people by not getting that win. My favorite comment is the spinning fat kick. I don't know who said it first, but that kills me every time. That I think that was mine. If somebody beat me to that here, please let me know in the chat. What's up, Pops? What's up? What's up? We got J772012. Cashed max bet on Aljo. Most satisfying bet of the year after all the love TJ was getting. He made it look absolutely easy out there. That had to be one of the most sweat-free bets. I mean, he took him down 2 seconds into the fight, and TJ had no success. So great bet there. Living the dream, working at my desk while my 1-year-old sleeps, while hanging with all of you. Papa Chuck, what's up? At Jenna Marie, what's up? Sorry, I'm busy at work and can't chat much, but I heard your shout out. Appreciate you, Victor. Appreciate you, Jenna, Alex, Josh. Been saying since July that Muhammad would beat Brady. I said until Thursday that Muhammad would beat Brady, and then I changed my pick like an idiot. Josh, God damn it. Rob saying he better. You can't kill autism. Jared Vanderaa. Jeff K saying I don't think Jared or Costa are UFC level. We're going to find out on Saturday, Jeff. The Cuban Assassin saying Jared Vanderbilt Winslow. Appreciate you, Cuban Assassin. Vanderaa was surprised by getting 1 concussion instead of his usual 5 concussions per fight. Jeff saying, so anything can happen here. This is basically a regional scene fight. Dan is so funny. Happy Vanderaa fight week. Yes, sir. What's up, Brady? Good to see you hanging out, man. Dude, I'm already 24 minutes into this show, you guys. We got Tristan Tate saying, best of luck, my good sir. I can feel the concussion already. Justin Villegas in the room. Weezy owns copyright on spinning fat kick. Can confirm. I appreciate you, Dan. I thought that was me, man. Making the fast. The chat couldn't smile. There we go, man. The Rain Man Vanderaa. Let's go, you guys. Let's get into it here. I'm going to share my screen with you here. And we've got the Christian Rodriguez Josh Weems fight up. Here, let me refresh the screen and see if we have gotten a line on this one yet. We do, yes. Christian Rodriguez minus 310. Here, I gotta wait. I'm gonna put the Patreon banner back up. We're gonna save that. All right, come on. Let's show that one. And then I have to change these lines and add them in there. So minus 310 for C-Rod. Josh Weems right now is plus 260. And we don't have a fight goes or doesn't go line. So now I can show that. That is the correct banner. Let's get these stats up, and let me get my notes up. Oh, these are the prop templates available on Uncle Weezy's Patreon. And right here, this is also available on Uncle Weezy's Patreon as I zoom in and we cover everything here. So Christian Rodriguez is somebody that I have been very, very impressed with. His UFC debut was made on short notice, up a weight class against probably one of the worst guys that you could fight on short notice in this UFC. There are actually two guys that absolutely ran into a dick saw on short notice, and it was Christian Rodriguez against JSP, Jonathan Pierce, one of my favorite fighters, and then Josh Fremd absolutely ran into a dick saw against one Anthony Hernandez in his UFC debut. Taking that fight on short notice, I just don't think was smart. But Fremd is here now, and now he's going to be able to get his fight against somebody that is much more on his level in Tresean Gore. Really looking forward to this fight. But C-Rod here is 4 years younger, as we can see. It's going to be Weems, who's a little bit taller, but he's also got a 2-inch reach advantage, this Christian Rodriguez. He's got one more UFC fight. If we go down here to the UFC experience here and 28 more minutes into the UFC cage. And in terms of the durability, Josh Weems has been finished in both of his pro losses, both of them by KO. And Christian Rodriguez has never been finished, and he showed amazing durability, toughness, and the ability to not quit against JSP, who just puts a horrific pace on people. He's definitely an equal opportunity finisher here as Christian Rodriguez. He's got just as many wins by submission as he does by knockout, while Josh Weems definitely is a lot more likely to try to depend on the sub here at 80% to 10% for knockout for Weems. Striking differential for Rodriguez is actually really good here, seeing as this guy fought 2 fights at the UFC level, one against Reyes Cortes on the Dana White's Contender Series, and one against JSP up a weight class on short notice. So, yeah, we got a 1.3 significant strike differential here, 60% striking defense, and he's absorbing just over 2 significant strikes per minute. And Weems is just, this is a 2-minute sample size against Fernie Garcia, so it just doesn't tell us enough for us to be able to count on these numbers. He's landed 15 strikes and absorbed 12. He's been knocked down once. C-Rod's 2 of 2 on his takedowns. He's being outcontrolled 55% to 5%, but this is all the JSP fight here. As a matter of fact, we might as well just kind of take a look, because we have such small sample sizes for both fighters, what's going on here. So Rodriguez got controlled for 311 seconds by Reyes Cortes and only got 28. And then he was controlled for 677 seconds by Jonathan Pierce here, and he got 65 seconds of his own. 2 of 2 on his takedowns against JSP, and JSP was 6 of 10 on his takedowns, and Reyes Cortes was 2 of 10 on his takedowns in that fight. But he outlanded Reyes 78 to 47, and it looks like he actually outlanded JSP as well, 26 to 18, but it was JSP who landed a lot of head strikes, a lot of total strikes here at 59, and then those 6 takedowns and a shit ton of control time. So he's given up almost 1,000 seconds of control time in 1,800 seconds so far. So we got to watch for him getting taken down and getting held down here. And Weems is somebody who has only fought for 130 seconds at the UFC level. He got knocked out by Fernie Garcia, who then pretty much went out there and got his ass shaved in his UFC debut. So, yeah, this is an interesting one. It's very short notice. I haven't been able to watch much tape on Weems, but Weems does have some decent wins here. Thiago Bello at 9-4-1 is not bad. Tyson Duckworth at 12-7. At least the guy's got 20 fights, but he got a win over Mo Miller, who's a really good prospect, who's got excellent wrestling. Won that one by guillotine choke with 2:15 into the 3rd round. But other than that, we don't see a lot of impressive wins here. An 0-11 guy, an 0-4 guy, and then a lot of 0-0 guys here. Lost to Chris Ocon, who fought on the Ocon actually twice, once as an amateur and then once as a professional. Chris Ocon has a couple of fights against guys that you would recognize, and he was on Dana White's Contender Series as well. But Christian Rodriguez, training with the Rufus Sport guys, C-Rod, he's a stud, man. But we really haven't seen much from him either, you know. Chirampolis Gregorio is a pretty decent name. Junior Cortez is a decent name. You know, Ryan McIntosh is 19-36. John Pham 2-0. You know, but he does have a fight in Bellator. He's got 2 LFA fights and a CFFC fight. So he's fighting good regional scene competition here, with the exception of McIntosh. And he took that really tough fight against Pierce, but this is one that's a lot more up his alley. He's just going to have to watch out for the submissions here. In terms of the Weems advantages, let me get these stats back up here on the screen. He's 1 inch taller. He's got 4 more pro fights and 30 more minutes in the pro cage, so he's a little bit taller. He's got a little bit of an experience advantage overall in comparison to C-Rod, and he might have the grappling advantage here as he's finished 80% of his pro wins by sub. But, you know, I mean, I love Christian Rodriguez here to get the fight finished inside the distance, and I'll be looking for affordable violence props due to the fact that both of C-Rod's UFC fights have went to decision. However, 17 of these guys' 20 combined professional fights have finished inside the distance. That's an 85% finish rate combined. C-Rod right now is over 75% implied to win this fight, and he's finishing at an 86% rate, and Josh Weems is getting finished in his 2 pro losses at a 100% finish rate. So I think what might be the better way to play this is to play Christian Rodriguez inside the distance. Both of these guys are fantastic finishers, as I mentioned. Fight doesn't go to decision, might be affordably priced, like I said, because Rodriguez's last 2 fights have went to decision here. I'm sorry, it was the Cortez and the Pierce fights, but so his UFC fights have went to decision. But everything outside the UFC has went all 3 or has finished inside the distance here. So I'm going to be picking Christian Rodriguez. I do have to watch more tape on Weems. This fight just got added today while I was preparing for the show. So admittedly, I haven't watched any of the tape on Weems. I just remember his Fury Garcia fight and remember him getting knocked out really quick there. So the pick is Christian Rodriguez inside the distance. And I'd like to hopefully find that at plus money, but that might just be wishful thinking. The next fight that we're going to talk about here is going to be another fight that was just added. This one was added yesterday. We got Carlos Mota at minus 175 going up against Cody Durden at plus 150. Don't have a fight doesn't go to decision bet for this one yet, but the violence numbers on this one are coming in here as we see the under 2.5 opened at minus 105, then went immediately to minus 125, and now it's sitting at minus 135. So people are expecting violence here in the Mota Durden fight. Let's get the stats up on the screen. Now, we don't have any stats for Mota yet at the UFC level, but we do have stats for our guy, Cody Durden. Durden is 1 inch taller. He's a southpaw. And he's got 9 more fights at pro level and 40 more minutes in the pro cage. And he's got 4 more months as a pro fighter here. So he's a little more experienced both overall and definitely at the UFC level, as he's got 5 more UFC fights and 35 minutes in the UFC cage. He's also been the busier fighter as a pro as well. As we can see, both of these guys' careers sitting just a little bit over 6 years. But Mota only has 9 professional fights while Durden has 18. So we like Durden, the fact that he's a little bit taller here, that he's a southpaw, that he's more experienced as a pro and at the UFC level. And finish stats goes to Durden as well, as he's got an 84% finish rate as a pro compared to only 50% for Carlos Mota. And he has Durden's got a nice equal opportunity finisher here, as he's got 6 wins by knockout and 5 wins by submission. While Carlos Mota, even though he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, he's never submitted anybody as a pro. All of his pro finishes are by knockout, and that is in 4 of his 8 pro wins that he's knocked his opponents out. The finish stats, yeah, definitely goes to Durden. In terms of wrestling, I got to give that to Durden. I mean, the guy's a 2-time Georgia state champion, and he's outcontrolled his opponents 38% to 7.2% at the UFC level here, as we can see these numbers. He's got 10 takedowns. His opponents have gotten 2. He's tried about 4 times as many takedowns as his opponents have, and he's outcontrolling his opponents at better than a 5-to-1 ratio, averaging 4.24 takedowns per 15 minutes and giving up 0.85. So Cody's probably going to be the guy that's the better wrestler here. It probably is going to be Mota who's going to be the better submission grappler, though. So it's going to be very interesting when this fight hits the ground, because Cody Durden, in his 4 professional losses, 3 of them are inside the distance by submission. He's never been knocked out. And with Mota, you got a guy who's only finished fights by knockout and has never submitted anybody. So, what could be a potentially cheeky prop this week is Carlos Mota by submission, because he's never submitted anybody, but he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and that's where we've seen Cody have the most problems when he's losing fights. And then if we look at the strength of schedule, that's Durden as well. He's got 5 UFC fights and a 2.4 ratio overall, even though it's only 3.4 total fights for his opponents. So not the most experienced competition, but he's fighting good guys. Muhammad Makayev, Aori Quilang, Flick, Chris Gutierrez has got a great UFC record. And then JP Buys is his most recent win, where he just sparked him. But yeah, the wins over Quilang and Buys are solid. The draw against Gutierrez, I think Gutierrez probably won that fight. They gave Cody a 10-8 in the first. But either way, to go 3 rounds with a stud like Gutierrez and not get finished is just a feather in your cap as well. And he didn't even lose that fight. So, but he did get subbed by Jimmy Flick. He got subbed by Muhammad Makayev, so there could be an opportunity for a Carlos Mota sub here. And because he's never done it to anybody before, could be a fat number. So that's going to be something I'm going to be keeping my eye on here. When it comes to Carlos Mota, he's 4 years younger. He's got a 2.5-inch reach advantage, so we got some nice little size advantages there here in terms of just being the longer guy, being the younger guy. And he's got a BJJ black belt, and Cody, like I said, has been submitted in 3 or 4 pro losses, so that could come into effect here. But we don't have any UFC statistics on Mota. But when you watch the guy fight, been in an absolute classic war with Charles Johnson. I beg of you, go watch that fight if you haven't seen it already. You're going to find out a lot about Carlos Mota in that fight. He got finished in the 5th round. Charles Johnson is somebody who has legendary cardio, and you saw Johnson with about 1.5 minutes left in the 4th round just absolutely take it to a different gear. And when he did that, it was just too much for Mota after about 18.5, 19 minutes of fighting. When the juice really got turned up on him late in that fight, it was just too much for him. But this is only a 3-round fight. And Cody Durden's not known as a guy who puts the kind of pace on that Charles Johnson does. Mota's got power, dude. He throws a stiff jab, and he throws with intention, heavy leg kicks. He's knocked people out with body kicks before. And he does definitely mix in the wrestling and will look to win minutes on the ground and hunt for submissions. I think this is a very, very close fight. I love all the advantages Cody has on paper, and Carlos is taking this fight on short notice. But we also have to note here, I think it's important that Durden was replacing somebody as well. C-Rod was supposed to, or I'm sorry, let me get my facts straight down here. So it was supposed to be Vinicius Salvador who was fighting Cladeson. Salvador withdrew. So then Cody Durden stepped in to fight Cladeson Rodriguez on short notice. Then Cladeson withdrew, and now it's our guy Mota, who's stepping in to take Clayton's spot. So even though Mota's taking this fight on short notice, Durden's also taking it on short notice. I'm very impressed with what I've seen from Mota. He's got good hands and kicks, mixes in the wrestling. The fight with Charles Johnson for the LFA championship was a back-and-forth war. I think I'm staying away from the money line for the time being, and I'm anxious to see where the time props open because both fighters are taking this on short notice, and they've been finished inside the distance in 4 of 5 combined losses. And we can see that when those time props did open up, the unders got smashed. So people are expecting violence in this spot. I don't think it's a bad look. I actually had the chance to smash that minus 105 opener, and I did not pull the trigger on it just because I wasn't exactly sure if the value was there at that number, and it's already getting steamed. The pick, wow. I'm going to pick Carlos Mota here, but man, with very little confidence. I wouldn't want to lay the juice on him right here, but I'm impressed with both of these guys. I think Durden will be the more likely guy to win minutes with his wrestling, and I feel that on the feet, it'll probably be Mota who's landing the heavier shots, but I think that they'll be throwing a similar amount of volume. This is a great fight. Carlos is a fantastic prospect. Big up Carlos Mota Tizil. Really looking forward to seeing him make his UFC debut. I knew it was just a matter of time after that war with Johnson, and then after he went and actually got that LFA flyweight belt against his most recent opponent, who was a Russian kickboxer by the name of Rizvan Abuev, and he melted him. And Stephen Merrill as well. But yeah, Mota's got a lot of decisions too. So because Mota's been a decision about almost half the time, I couldn't pounce on that violence prop, but very good fight. Picking Carlos Mota to win it, potentially by sub, man. That would be interesting if he could get that sub, but I'm not picking a method yet. I'm just going to lean Mota, and I'll get a little bit more into this fight as the week goes on because this one was just added as well. The next fight, Ben Askren's son, Chase Hooper, is going up against the Mean Machine, Steve Garcia. Now, right now, Chase Hooper, a minus 271 favorite. Steve Garcia plus 231 on the comeback. The fight doesn't go to decision. Juice to the tits at minus 200. 66.67% implied probability that this fight finishes inside the distance. When featherweight fights only finish inside the distance for 3 rounds, these are 43% of the time. So you're overpaying by about 24% against the benchmark for how the division finishes if you're betting Hooper Garcia at minus 200 for the fight doesn't go. Very, very juiced there. But as we look at the notes here, Chase Hooper's got some good advantages in this fight. He's 7 years younger, as we can see right here. He's an inch taller. It's a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. Chase has been the busier fighter as he's been fighting almost 3 times per year in his 5-year career, while for Steve Garcia, it's less than twice a year. Hooper has the UFC experience advantage as well here with 2 more fights and almost 50 more minutes in the UFC cage, as we can see right there. Hooper has the better finish rate as a pro in comparison to Garcia, 81% for Hooper, 75% for Garcia, and he's never been finished in 2 pro losses, has Chase Hooper, while Garcia has been finished in 2 of 5 pro losses. So, and plus, Hooper just eats punches like flapjacks, dude. The guy blocks punches with his face, but he's very durable, and he has been able to count on his chin thus far. And for somebody who's as good of a grappler as Chase is, it's really nice that he is able to count on his chin a little bit and absorb some heavy strikes because it keeps him in fights and kind of turns fights into wars where he can maybe most likely get somebody overextending and then maybe working for a takedown or working to get to the back of his opponent so he can start to work for those submissions. Hooper's definitely the better submission grappler here. Garcia has been controlled, as we can see right here in this number, 51.2% of his UFC career. Of the 27.67 minutes, he's been controlled for 51%. So that's about 14 minutes of control time in only 4 fights that he's given up. and he gave up over 14 minutes of control time in a 15-minute fight against Luis Pena. So the blueprint is there on how to nullify Garcia's offense, and that's just to stick to the guy like glue, try to get to his back, take him down. The strength of schedule advantage also going to Hooper here, as I will bring that up here. We see that Garcia's got the better ratio, but it's Chase who's fighting a much more experienced competition, and Chase has the better ratio in wins and more total fights. Neither one of these guys has been a world beater yet. We've got Chase Hooper thus far with wins over the Bad Tamer, Slippery Pete Barrett, and Felipe Colares, but the losses to Stephen Ocho Peterson and Alex Caceres, while we see Steve Garcia with a win over Charlie, the American bad boy, Ontiveros, but losses dominated by Luis Pena and separated from his consciousness early in the Mahashate fight. But he does have a knockout win over Chepe Mariscal, who's a stud. So that is a very good win there for Garcia. But Garcia used to be a weight bully, so I'd be interested to see if he even made weight in that Chepe Garcia fight, because Garcia was fighting down at 135 and 145, and this guy's had problems making weight at 155. Mariscal 145, yeah, so that one was at 145, and he weighed in heavy, 147.4. So one thing that we do need to watch with the Mean Machine is that he does miss weight a lot. He's been forced to go up to 155. He was trying to make 135 back in the day, which is pretty wild. But he's got some good names on his resume. Look at this. He's got losses to Elon Cruz, Joe Warren, Ricky Tercios, and, some wins over, Kinmoy. Eduardo Bustillos 4-1, Ronnie Lawrence 3-0 in Bellator. It's a great win. Des Torres on the Contender Series, Andrew Whitney 16-6, Chepe Mariscal 10-4, the American bad boy. So he's got some good wins in here. I think people are just Chase Hooper looked fantastic in the Colares fight. I think that right now this line is just really entirely too wide, because this guy is coming off the best performance of his career. But he lost a unanimous decision to Stephen Ocho Peterson. He would have lost that fight to Slippery Pete Barrett if he didn't pull that heel hook out of his ass. Lost to Caceres. He beats Tamer, who has no ground game. Luis Gomez on Titan, who I think was much smaller than him, if I'm not mistaken. Look, I like Chase. I think he's an excellent grappler. And, at his age, he's absolutely going to be doing nothing but getting better. So there's a lot to like here, and the arrow is pointing straight up for Chase Hooper. But we've got to look at this in terms of what the line is on the fight. And right now, Chase Hooper is like about 73% implied to win this fight. And he's really only had one standout performance thus far at the UFC level against a guy who willingly grappled with him in Felipe Colares. Steve Garcia has given up a ton of control time and has not been good at keeping fights in at distance striking range here. As we see, he's got 24.34% control time, and he's allowing 51. So that means over 75% of his fights are taking place in control time positions. So it might be easy for Chase to find himself there against Steve Garcia. That's another reason why I think he's definitely the favorite here. But what if Steve Garcia does use this 100% takedown defense that he showed, and he doesn't get sloppy, doesn't fall down throwing a kick, or doesn't get his back taken standing by overcommitting to a punch and getting his nose out over his toes? If he keeps this at distance striking range, he's probably going to knock out Hooper at some point. The guy's got a ton of power in that left hand of his, and he sparked Mahashate at one point and had him in a little bit of trouble. I think that Garcia is the much better, more powerful striker here. Hooper, clearly the better grappler. Here, let's just go over the Garcia advantages real quick. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. He's the better distance striker for sure, so it'll be up to Chase to get this fight to the ground in order to perform like the line says he should. Steve has a 1.91 significant strike differential in comparison to 0.58 for Hooper, and Garcia has shown power, landing a knockdown in 4 fights Neither guy has good striking defense, but Garcia's 42.2% is better than Hooper's at 34.85%. Chase Hooper just blocking punches with his face. Look, I think Hooper looked incredible against Kalaris. Prior to that, though, he didn't look like a world beater by any stretch of the imagination. If Garcia's 100% takedown defense holds up and he can keep this fight standing, I think he's a steal at this price. I can't say that you should lay minus 270 on Hooper. That being said, I feel like I have to predict him to win this fight, but that doesn't mean that I won't be taking a big, fat plus money shot here on Steve Garcia, who could potentially land a big shot early and who's not like a total scrub on the ground here. He just isn't. You know, Pena had him in a lot of bad spots, but he never gave up. And every round is going to start on the feet. And Garcia's got a ton of power in that left hand. So just tread lightly with the Chase Hooper bet. Has Garcia ever been subbed as a pro? He's been subbed once. He's been knocked out once. So, yeah, I mean, like the possibility is there for Hooper to get a submission here. He's only been knocked out though at the UFC level. He's never been submitted. The pick is going to be Chase Hooper, but I think the bet could be Steve Garcia. If this line for Hooper goes past minus 300, I think I'm just throwing a unit on the Garcia money line and hoping he can keep the fight standing. And if he does, I think he'll look way better than 33% implied probability. The next fight, you guys, is going to be Ugly Man Joseph Holmes at plus 187 up against the Iron Turtle, Junyong Park at minus 222. The fight doesn't go to decision, plus money here at plus 120. Let me just check something here real quick. Okay. So Jacksonville Zoe's in the room. What's up? I'm just kind of scrolling through the comments here. We got our guys 69girls.xyz. If you want to get laid, that's where you go. But it's good to see that there are a lot of people in here hanging out. We've got 44 of you hanging out live for this card, which is not nearly as good as UFC 280, but is still a very exciting, very fun card to watch here. But yeah, Holmes is a big plus money number here, and he is going up against the Iron Turtle in Junyong Park. So for Joe, he's got a massive size advantage in this fight, everybody. First of all, he's 4 years younger, but he's 6 inches taller, and he's got a 7-inch reach advantage. So this is not something that you can ignore here. But Junyong Park, much more experience, as you can see, is he's got 9 more professional fights, about 115 more minutes in the pro cage, and over 5 more years as a pro. And he's got 50 more minutes in the UFC cage and 3 more UFC level fights. Now, Joe Holmes got a 100% finish rate in his wins, 75% by sub, 25% by knockout, while Junyong Park's got a 57% finish rate in his wins, but he has never finished any of his 4 UFC wins, while Joe Holmes has finished both of his UFC wins by submission. Junyong Park has been finished in 3 of his 5 UFC or pro fights, and he's been finished in both of his UFC losses, once by submission and once by knockout. Junyong Park's going to be the much better boxer here. He's the much better minute winner on the feet. He throws a lot more volume. He lands a lot more significant strikes, and he has the far superior significant strike differential here at about positive 1.21 compared to 0.41 for Joseph Holmes. So Park is the better boxer. He's the crisper boxer, always throwing in combination. He can count on his chin. He will take one to give one, and he loves to make it a war. But Joseph Holmes has got a ton of power. He hits very hard, and he is huge for the division. So it's going to be difficult. It's a tough road to hoe for Junyong Park here. He does a great job of mixing in the wrestling, though, which could be important here. As we see, he outcontrols his opponents 28% to 17%. He's got a little bit better takedown defense here than Joe Holmes on the aggregate. But Junyong does get taken down 2.31 times for 15 minutes, but he's hard to hold down. As you see here, Junyong has 20 takedown attempts, but his opponents have attempted twice as many as at 41. But yet, Junyong Park is outcontrolling his opponents 28% to 17%. So he's definitely done an excellent job of being efficient and, getting up when he gets takedowns and keeping his opponent down when he's the one actually getting them. And Holmes is outcontrolling his opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio here, but he's out takedowning them 3-2, and he's out takedown attempting them 8-5. So I think Joe could try to mix in the wrestling here, and he is very dangerous on the ground with his submissions, but I don't know if he's going to be able to take down Junyong Park and hold him there. Park has fought the superior brand of competition, but as we can see, both of these guys have ratios below 1, and they're not fighting the most experienced brand of competition. But definitely, Park here definitely has the better strength of schedule. Let's see here. It's definitely a show-me spot for Ugly Man Joe here. He's bigger, younger, more powerful, but I need to see him execute a game plan against a good opponent before I can bet him in this spot. I think Park is pretty much better everywhere, except for maybe with power. But he's fought the much better competition, and he's shown solid fight IQ, taking the fight to the ground when it calls for it, picking Park to win by decision in this spot. Bet the under 2.5, though, at plus 160 because it was mispriced. I beat some line movement there. I might arb out of that bet. But, with plus 160 for a middleweight fight, under 2.5 for a guy in Holmes who has a 100% finish rate in his wins, I think it's a great bet. And I can arb out and get a guaranteed profit if I want, but I think I'm going to let that one ride. Yeah, I'm picking Junyong Park to win this one, but I think Holmes could be live here to land a big shot, maybe a club and sub. Maybe he lands the bigger shots. Maybe he's able to control Junyong Park a little bit in the clinch as well and win minutes there. I think there are definitely avenues here for Joe Holmes, but if Junyong Park finds ways to close the distance and get this into boxing range, I think he's going to look very good here. I am not laying that juice, though, on Junyong Park because I don't think he's that much better everywhere than Joseph Holmes, and I have to worry about that power, and I have to worry about that gigantic size advantage. If Junyong Park was just like this guy who just walked forward and just marched his opponents down, I would feel a lot better about this, but he's not. He's a boxer. He likes to kind of stand and trade and doesn't really pressure his opponents that much. So I think Ugly Man Joe is live at this plus number. I'm picking Junyong Park to win it, though. There's just, I've seen a lot more on tape from Park that I like than from Holmes here. The loss to Jamie Pickett was a really bad look. So yeah, got that fight under 2.5 at plus 160. I think that's a really great number, and I'm picking Junyong Park to win the fight. Next one is Andrei Arlovski versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. The lines on this one, we got Marcos at minus 220 right now. Andrei Arlovski at plus 185. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 100. Let me get Arlovski de Lima up on the screen here. So when we talk about the Arlovski advantages, he's 2 inches taller and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. He's the natural heavyweight here, while Marcos Rogerio de Lima is a blown-up 205er. Andrei's got 28 more pro fights, 330 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 10 more years as a pro fighter. Andrei also has the UFC experience advantage with 24 more UFC fights and almost 290 more minutes in the UFC cage. But, Marcos Rogerio de Lima shouldn't despair because Andrei Arlovski has a experience advantage over literally everybody in the division. Even Alexei Oleinik, who after losing his battle with his sweatpants trying to get them off against Ilir Latifi, was beat 3 rounds to nothing and now is off the roster, I believe. So, yeah, I feel like we hardly knew ye, Alexei Oleinik. I wish you well in the next part of your career and next part of your life. But yeah, Andrei Arlovski is older and more experienced than everybody right about now. Andrei's been a bit more durable over his pro and UFC career, being finished at a lower rate than De Lima in both. And Andrei's fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio, more experienced competition, but not necessarily lately. Both of these guys have been fighting some questionable competition lately. As we can see, Arlovski had a fight against Aspinall and he lost that one. But guys like Chase Sherman, Carlos Felipe, Jared Vanderaa, the walking concussion, and Fat Collier are definitely scraping the bottom of the barrel of the division, while some names like the Combat Wombat, Ben Sosoli, and Maurice Green aren't exactly impressive wins, but fights against Alexander Romanov, Big Ben Rothwell, and Blagoy Ivanov definitely much stiffer competition than anything Andrei Arlovski has faced recently. When it comes to De Lima and his advantages here, let me get this back over. Marcos is 6 years younger than Andrei Arlovski, so he's definitely the younger guy. De Lima has the better finish rates, both as a pro and at the UFC level, as we see that De Lima finishes at 84% as a pro and 75% at the UFC level, while Arlovski finishes at a 59% as a pro, and he's got a 48% finish rate at the UFC level. But I don't think Andrei Arlovski has finished anybody at the UFC level since Travis Brown, and I think that might have been 6 or 7 years ago. So, Andrei is, a decision fighter, a point fighter now, very low volume, stays away, tries to make it a low volume kickboxing match. And it's working quite well for him as he's on a 4-fight win streak here. But it's De Lima who has the better UFC striking metrics thus far, although it is in a smaller sample size with better accuracy at 55.7% for Rogerio compared to 45% for Arlovski. And the power numbers are much better as well. 0.95 knockdowns per 15 to 0.41 for Arlovski, and a 1.81% knockdowns for total significant strikes landed for De Lima, while it's a 0.7% for Arlovski. And a much better significant strike differential, as De Lima is almost doubling up his opponents, while Arlovski has a nice one as well, but it's 0.58. Let's see. And De Lima has also done a much better job thus far at the UFC level using his ground game to win minutes. He's got 50% control time compared to only 8% for Arlovski. Marcos gets 1.32 takedowns per 15 minutes, and Andrei gets 0.37. If one of the two has a better chance to win minutes in the grappling exchanges, I'd say it's Marcos here. And then, I like Marcos to win this fight. Look, you have to engage Arlovski in his type of fight in order to give him a chance. Now, the one thing that De Lima could absolutely do to Arlovski that Arlovski does not look like he has the ability to do at this point in his career is just say, I'm gonna kick the shit out of this dude. I haven't seen Arlovski land a big shot in years. Nothing that said, whoa, I think he might finish this fight soon. We haven't seen that in years from Andrei Arlovski. But Marcos Rogerio De Lima hits like a fucking truck. He's got massive power numbers, and he is in the grappling exchanges, about 2.5 times more than Arlovski is. So I think he's much more likely to win minutes with the grappling here. I think he's 10 times more likely to land a big shot on the feet. And I think he's much more likely to just care more, to go for it more, and to look to finish the fight. I think Andrei Arlovski is looking to pitter-patter his way to another split decision win that pisses off everybody else except for him. And I think Marcos Rogerio De Lima is going in there to climb this ladder, get a win, and I think he's going to fight, like he's not being paid by the hour here, and just try to get this guy out of there. He can absolutely do to Andrei Arlovski what he did to Ben Rothwell a couple of fights ago, which is just absolutely melt him in the first 30 seconds. So the one thing I do want to show you guys here, we talked about this on probability, because one of these two guys is going to get their way. Arlovski, if Arlovski gets his way, it's going to be a 15-minute low-volume distance striking match that ends in a split decision and goes to decision probably 90 to 95% of the time. If De Lima has his way, this thing is finishing inside the distance and quick. But, Marcos Rogerio De Lima, every time he goes over 1.5 rounds, he goes to decision. So this is cage time here. You won't find any numbers that are greater than 450 in this column that don't wind up being 900. So he went to decision against Adam Wieczorek at heavyweight. He went to decision against Maurice Green at heavyweight, and he went to decision against Blagoy Ivanov at heavyweight, and everybody goes to a decision against Blagoy. But, he also got, in this decision win, 846 seconds of control time against Maurice Green and just easily won that fight. So that's what I mean when I say that he's got more ways to win this fight. He doesn't need to go out there and spark Arlovski. He can just mix in the wrestling and wind up winning 2 out of 3 rounds with ground control. But I like the under 1.5 in this fight if I'm looking for violence, because if Arlovski gets his way, it's going to decision anyway. But I'd rather get that fat plus number and get more De Lima's best condition to finish the fight, which is under 1.5. That way I don't have to pay plus 100 if the fight doesn't go. I can get it at plus 200, knowing that there's only one finisher in this fight. And that is evidenced by the finish-only prop on Bet Online, which they priced at minus 400 for Marcos Rogerio De Lima, meaning that this guy, if there's a finish, they say that 8 out of 10 times it's De Lima getting that finish. And in reality, it's probably about 9 out of 10 times. So De Lima, the only guy with finishing equity here. And since he only does it under 1.5 rounds because he's so explosive, the under 1.5 at plus 200 is going to be one of my favorite bets of the week. I'm just waiting for it to open on a book that I can bet it at. I see Bovada has it at plus 225. I would bet that for a full unit, but I don't have availability on that book. But yeah, I'm picking Marcos Rogerio De Lima here. He's the better moment winner. He's younger. He's way more powerful. He does a better job of mixing in the grappling to win minutes. I could see the under 1.5 at better than plus 200 being value here, as all of Marcos's UFC finishes came under the 1.5 mark. It's going to be Marcos Rogerio De Lima by violent finish under 1.5 rounds is the prediction for this fight. And we've got a great fight here coming up next. Phil Hawes versus Roman Dolidze. The Hawes side is one I'm kind of liking here, but let's talk through this one. As Hawes is minus 170, Roman is plus 145, and the fight doesn't go to decision, is at minus 120 here. So Phil has got a 1-inch reach advantage here. He's got the pro experience advantage with 4 more professional fights, 40 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 3 more years as a pro fighter. And he also has the UFC experience advantage with 2 more fights and a couple more minutes in the UFC cage. Hawes has a slightly better finish rate, both as a pro, as we see 84% here for Hawes, 80% for Dolidze. And at the UFC level as well, as we see that Hawes is finishing at a 60% rate by knockout, and Dolidze is finishing at a 50% rate by knockout. I like the Hawes stand-up more than Dolidze's here. He throws way more volume, 9.38 significant strike attempts per minute for Phil Hawes, 4.99 for Roman Dolidze. He's also landing a lot more, 5.68 significant strikes landed per minute for Phil Hawes, 2.46 landed for Roman Dolidze. And he's way more accurate at 60.6% compared to 49.2% for Dolidze. But yeah, that 60% accuracy is very, very impressive, because Dolidze is no slouch at all with a 49% accuracy. Both of these guys could definitely hit water if they fell out of a boat. But I definitely do like Hawes' stand-up much better here. And Hawes has the better wrestling background for sure. He's shown 100% takedown defense on 7 attempts thus far in the UFC. while Dolidze is showing 37.5% takedown defense. So Hawes probably has the better chance of completing takedowns here and winning minutes in the control time positions because he's doing a better job of stopping takedowns. And both of these guys don't really get controlled. 8.3% control time allowed for Phil Hawes, 5.75% for Dolidze. So even though he's been taken down 5 times on 8 attempts, he's only been controlled for about 2.5 to 3 minutes on those 8 attempts and 5 takedowns. So it's not like Dolidze's yielding a whole bunch of control time here. And when it comes to the strength of schedule, that's Hawes, you guys, as he's fought, beaten, and lost to the better and more experienced competition here, except for the more experienced competition is Dolidze's losses. But everywhere else, you're seeing a much better ratio here in the wins for Hawes and a much better ratio overall for Hawes as Dolidze thus far in the UFC, outside of the Kyle Daukaus fight, has really scraped the bottom of the barrel here with Staropoli, Giles, John Alon, and Hadis Ibragimov, while Hawes has melted guys like Malkoun, fought Nasruddin, Kyle Daukaus, lost to Chris Curtis, beat the piss out of Duran Win. This is an interesting fight. So when it comes to Dolidze, he's 2 inches taller. He's never been finished as a pro, while Hawes has been finishing all 3 of his pro losses. So, it might be Dolidze who has more finishing equity here, even though both guys are big finishers in their wins. It's Hawes who's getting finished while Dolidze is not getting finished. And Dolidze's shown the better power metrics thus far. His knockdowns for total significant strikes landed, even though it's low volume, is 2.42%. While for Phil Hawes, it's exactly 1%. So 3 knockdowns for Phil Hawes in the UFC and 3 knockdowns for Roman Dolidze in the UFC. When we look at the knockdowns per 15, it's almost identical. And Hawes has been a lot more chinny as he's absorbed 2 knockdowns in his UFC career, and Dolidze has never been knocked down. Dolidze also absorbs way less significant strikes a minute. So he's low volume, but he also does not take much damage as he's only absorbing 1.45 significant strikes per minute. I mean, that's going to change in this fight because Hawes puts up crazy volume on his opponents, throwing those 9.38 significant strike attempts per minute. This is going to be interesting to see how Dolidze, as he's only absorbed 73 significant strikes thus far in the UFC, he might double that number just in this fight with Hawes. So very interesting to see how this one's going to shake out. Dolidze's grappling metrics are slightly better than Hawes here at the UFC level, as we see that Dolidze has gotten his takedowns at a higher clip, and he's getting more control time with those takedowns. 9 takedowns, 43% control time, 8 takedowns for Hawes and 33% control time. And Dolidze gives up less control time than Hawes, even though his takedown defense is far inferior on paper. But I like Phil Hawes to win this fight. He does way more on the feet. He has better offensive and defensive wrestling, and I think his power numbers are comparable with Dolidze. I worry about Hawes' defense and chin, but Roman is low volume enough that I think that Hawes can get the dub here if he mixes in the wrestling, if he avoids that big shot from Roman. I think he's definitely the better minute winner here. And I just want to see Roman deal with a wrestler the quality of Phil Hawes. Hadis Ibragimov is not a good wrestler. John Alon is not a good wrestler. Trevin Giles has good takedown accuracy, but he barely wrestles at all. Staropoli, not a good wrestler. Daukaus is a good grappler, but he's not a high percentage wrestler. Phil Hawes is a guy, that can get takedowns, that can absolutely wrestle you and wrestle at a very high level. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dolidze deals with that. I think Hawes is the much more likely minute winner in this spot, and I see him winning this fight. I'm going to call it by decision, but I think it's going to be a really good one. The next fight is going to be Dustin Jacoby versus Khalil Rountree. Jacoby's a minus 170 favorite. Rountree, a plus 145 dog, and the fight doesn't go to decision right now, is sitting at minus 190. Let's see. Let's get these stats up on the screen, and we can see that Dustin Jacoby is 2 inches taller than Khalil Rountree. They have the same reach, and Khalil's a little bit younger and is a southpaw here. Two good camps is we got Tiger Muay Thai and Factory X. Dustin Jacoby's got a nice little experience advantage here. He's got 8 more pro fights, about 80 more minutes in the pro cage, 3.5 more years as a pro, and he's also got about 20 more minutes in the UFC cage as well. Rountree is a savage finisher. A 70% overall finish rate, an 83% finish rate at the UFC level. He's only attempted 1 takedown in 12 fights, and he's only attempted 1 submission in 12 fights. So Khalil Rountree, definitely not a guy that we can count on to go out there and use the grappling. Dustin Jacoby might be the more likely guy to mix in the grappling here, but we definitely can't count on it from him either. But yeah, 70% finish rate overall, 67% for Jacoby, but definitely Rountree, the more potent UFC finisher. I mean, if you look at Khalil Rountree, he's finished 5 of his 6 wins. The only guy he didn't finish was Eric Anders, and I mean, he beat 7 shades of shit out of Eric Anders, so he could easily have a 100% finish rate. Khalil Rountree's a mean man. And, you know, if he lands on you, you are probably going to sleep or you're probably going to the fucking hospital because, I mean, just you see that when this guy finishes fights, people don't know where the fuck they are. Remember those soccer kicks to the body that he landed on Muhammad Duris while getting into the Ultimate Fighter house? I mean, you remember the beating he put on Eric Anders? You remember the knockout against Karl Roberson? You remember him breaking Modestas Bukauskas' front leg in half? This guy has got absolutely terrifying power. He's not a guy you want to stand in front of and just trade with. Now, Dustin Jacoby, though, is about as tough of a matchup as it gets, though, for him. He's the far better minute winner in the kickboxing exchanges. He's a master of maintaining range. He's very active and defensively responsible. He uses those kicks to stay in kicking range while his opponent tries to get into boxing range, and that's how he outlands his opponents. Jacoby's got the superior significant strike differential at this level at 1.78 compared to negative 0.21 for Khalil Rountree. And he's got the better accuracy at 47% compared to 39% for Khalil. And the defense is much better. 60% for Jacoby, 49% for Khalil Rountree. And both of these guys have been knocked down, but Jacoby's absorbed just a little bit more than Khalil Rountree, and it's obviously Khalil Rountree with the far superior knockdown numbers here. He's 1.85 knockdowns per 15 minutes, 0.55 for Jacoby. But this is a guy who I think has 11 knockdowns in 12 UFC fights, while Dustin Jacoby has 4 knockdowns in 10 UFC fights. So both of these guys have power, and both of these guys have been knocked down before. Khalil Rountree's been knocked down once. Dustin Jacoby's been knocked down twice. I think Jacoby will be the more likely guy to mix in wrestling here, as he's gotten 3 takedowns and Khalil's gotten 0. And he actually has 10% control time for, and he's yielding 13% control time against, while Khalil Rountree's getting control about 19% of the time and getting 2% control time. If we look at the ratios here, they're almost identical. Khalil fighting the slightly more experienced competition. Jacoby with the better ratio in his wins, but Khalil Rountree beating the more experienced competition. And the losses are very similar here. So very similar in the strength of schedule, very similar in the size. They're at similar age. Jacoby's more experienced. Jacoby just does a little bit more in the grappling. Jacoby probably the better minute winner in the stand-up here, but Khalil definitely very powerful. Khalil Rountree, what his biggest problem has been up to this point is, you look at the losses, right? the loss against Tyson Pedro, the loss against Andrew Sanchez, the loss against Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, the loss against Walker, the loss against Cutelaba, and the loss against Prochnow. Now, here he got out-controlled 80 seconds to 0. Here he got out-controlled 189 seconds to 0. Here he got out-controlled 722 seconds to 0. And I know that Mikhail Oleksiejczuk had control time in this fight too. I must have missed that because the fight was overturned, but I know that he gave up some control time there. So let me just get that number real quick for you guys because it is important. And yeah, it shows no control time, but Oleksiejczuk had 2 takedowns on 3 attempts. And he spent a lot of time on top in that fight. So I don't know why UFC stats chose not to put control time for this fight. But Rountree was controlled in that fight and taken down in that fight as well. So you see him every fight that he's been taken down in. Let me show you this. Got taken down 4 times here. Got taken down 2 times here. 2 times here. 6 times here. Every fight that he's yielded a takedown, he's lost. Andrew Sanchez, Tyson Pedro, Ian Cutelaba, and Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Now, the Oleksiejczuk fight was overturned due to a failed drug test by Oleksiejczuk, but Oleksiejczuk, 30-27'd him. So I don't know what Oleksiejczuk tested positive for there. I'll have to look into that. But this guy, Rountree, is definitely very dangerous when he's not getting controlled. When in fights where he doesn't get taken down, he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2. 6 and 2 when he doesn't get taken down, and the ones that he lost were to Prochnow on Fight Island, where he just looked completely out of sorts, and then Johnny Walker, who's a very long, very unorthodox kickboxer who landed some big elbows in the clinch against Rountree there. So this is a great fight. I mean, I think that the finish-only prop for Khalil Rountree might be a great way to play this one, because when this guy does lose, it's more likely to be by submission and by grapple fuck than it is by knockout. And, Jacoby a better minute winner than he is like just a flat-out straight power guy. We saw that power in the Junyong fight, finished him in the first round. But other than that, we're not really seeing this guy go out there and flatline people at the UFC level. His fights, his wins since he got back here, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them have been by decision, while the Darren Stewart knockout in the first round, the Junyong knockout in the first round, and the Justin Ledet knockout in the first round. Boy, he destroyed Ledet with those calf kicks. But Rountree a much better kickboxer than Ledet, Stewart, and he's probably on Jung's level. But I think that Jacoby, the decision only prop for Dustin Jacoby's a great spot. I think the finish only prop for Khalil Rountree is an interesting spot. There's a bet on Bet Online -135 Dustin Jacoby to win more significant, to land more significant strikes. The only fight where Jacoby, since he's been back, has been outlanded by his opponent was the Max Griffin fight, and he had a leg injury in that fight. Every other fight since the return after losing to Kamosi and Starks were fights that he outlanded his opponents. So I think I like Jacoby to land more significant strikes at -135. I like Dustin Jacoby finish or decision only prop because I think he's the better minute winner, and I think he's more likely to win minutes with the grappling should he choose to mix it in. And I think he lands more significant strikes. So yeah, I'm picking Dustin Jacoby to win this one by decision. But like I say, that finish-only prop is going to be very live for Khalil Rountree. I can't wait for this fight. It's a great kickboxing matchup here. And here we got a great prospect matchup with Josh Fremd sitting at -162 and Tresean Gore on the comeback at plus 142. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 170. Let me see. Somebody said he tested positive for something. What? For being Polish and awesome. Well, if he tested positive for being Polish and awesome, I don't see why you could take a win away for that. That doesn't make a lick of sense. So we're gonna have to look into the we're gonna have to look into the UFC for possibly having an anti-Polish slant. I don't like that. These are things the Polish people deserve better than that. They're a very industrious and proud people with a rich history. Let's see. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight. And we've got that Fremd Gore fight here. So let me get my notes up on this screen. So Josh is going to be 4 inches taller. He's going to have a 1.5 inch reach advantage here. Josh also has the pro experience advantage with 7 more professional fights and almost 60 more minutes in the pro cage and over 6 more months as a pro fighter. Fremd has the slightly better finish rate as a pro at 77% compared to 66% for Tresean Gore. Fremd definitely throws more volume than Trey. We didn't see it in the debut because he was controlled by Fluffy for over 70% of the fight, but he definitely is a guy who throws more volume than Tresean Gore. Tresean Gore, very low volume, and that's a problem because one of the reasons he's so low volume is he doesn't counter his opponents. He's happy to keep his hands up in a defensive shell while his opponents throw, and that's terrible because if your opponents are more active than you, you're just going to lose minutes constantly if you're not willing to stand in the pocket and throw back when your opponent is throwing. And Tresean Gore has been completely unwilling to do that. So I don't like his chances to win minutes on the feet because any fighter who has studied Tresean Gore's tape for more than 10 minutes knows that this guy's completely unwilling to counter. So you can stay in his face and just jab his face off, and he'll just stand there with his hands up and absorb a lot of it. He's got good defense. I mean, he keeps his hands up. He keeps a tight shell, but he doesn't return enough. And Josh is a guy that you don't want to just sit there, let him stand in front of you and tee off because the guy's got scary fucking power. You know, Josh hurts people, man. He's got some knockouts where, you know, Bruno Oliveira one was absolutely nasty. He knocked out some dude on LFA that, I mean, he opened him up so bad with a knee and then an elbow that it was, I mean, the guy didn't even look like he knew where he was for about 10 minutes. You know, so Gore has got to figure out ways to be more active when his opponents are throwing, because if he doesn't, I think that this is going to be a really, really bad spot for him. I'm assuming Fremd has the superior grappling because I haven't seen much from Gore there. I've seen some decent takedown defense, but Fremd does have a more known ground game and looks to be more versatile in the grappling exchanges. And Fremd has the better UFC strength to schedule in a very small sample size. Now, Trey has a little more UFC experience in the tough house in addition to one more fight and a couple more minutes in the UFC cage. And he looks to be more powerful on the feet when he's landing. But, you know, Josh, when I went back and I watched his fights, I think the mantra is going to be that Gore has more power, but I think Fremd might be meaner. I mean, I think he just might be meaner. This guy, he throws with really bad intentions, and he doesn't just use the fists. He'll throw knees and elbows as well, and he's looking to end your night. I'm picking Fremd here with some confidence. I'm not a huge Gore fan, but he looked great in the tough house and early in his pro career, so I think he could be, you know, making improvements. But I love Fremd's camp, Factory X, stand up. Those are some great training partners that he's got over there, and I think he's more versatile and well-rounded. And don't forget, friend of the show, Cody Brundage, also a Factory X guy, was Tresean Gore's last opponent. And guess who was helping Cody Brundage get ready for that fight? Josh Fremd. So this is an opponent that Josh Fremd is very well acquainted with at this point. So he already knows how Cody was game planning for Trey. And we saw Cody have a lot of success with his overhand right against Tresean Gore. He mixed in the wrestling. And I think he even outstruck Trey on the feet. Trey does bring some nice pressure. So Josh is going to have to deal with that pressure because that is something that can get you backing up and maybe take a little bit away from your power if he gets you back on your heels. But as long as Josh is active, I think he's going to be winning the minutes, and I think he's probably just as likely to land a big shot. And we saw him handle himself pretty well in the grappling exchanges against, just a terrifying guy to go out there and make your debut against in Anthony Hernandez. So I think Josh has the better ground game. I think Josh is just as powerful as Trey. Josh is more experienced. He's 4 inches taller. He has a 1.5 inch reach advantage here. So I definitely like Fremd to win this fight. I wouldn't lay the juice here necessarily, but I did bet the fight goes to decision at plus 195 for 1 unit. That line was way underpriced, but it has moved since. I think the fight goes to decision right now for this one is sitting at plus 140, plus 110, plus 125. So I might arb out of that one just to get a guaranteed profit, but I definitely did post that track bet yesterday on my Patreon. So everybody that's a member of the Patreon got a chance to jump on that and beat that line movement as well. Join the Patreon. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. And go subscribe to my guys over at the Club and Sub podcast as well. Do that for me today as well. But that line is moved now. But I'm on that bet for 1 unit. Picking Gore. I'm picking Fremd to win this fight. The next one is going to be Waldo Cortes-Acosta, Dominican Republic. Stand up, baby! You got your guy in here. I believe we got Jose Johnson, and now we've got Waldo Cortes-Acosta representing the Dominican Republic here in the UFC. And Acosta looks to be a pretty damn good prospect. I watched all the available tape on this guy, and I think he's good, man. I think he's kind of well-rounded. He's shown that he's got good size, strength, athleticism, and conditioning for this division. While Jared Vanderaa has the worst fight IQ that I've ever fucking seen. Imagine shooting 0 takedowns against Chase fucking Sherman after Chase Sherman got drowned by Fat Collier on the ground in the first round. Chase Sherman completely helpless against Romanov on the ground. No ground game whatsoever. Jared Vanderaa supposedly a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And let's just check the stats here and see how many times the big-brained Jared Vanderaa attempted to take down Chase Sherman. How about that? 0 fucking takedown attempts, 0 IQ, 0 fight IQ, 0 fashion. Oh, God, is this fucking guy bad? He is so fucking bad. Losses to Chase Sherman, 4-9. The 77-year-old Alexei Oleinik, who after Oleinik beat him, Alexei Oleinik actually lost to his own sweatpants getting ready for a fight. Andrei Arlovski, a fight that he could have won. He easily could have beaten Arlovski, but the ghost of Andrei Arlovski. He got murdered by Romanov. His wins are against Justin Tafa, the only guy to ever miss weight as a heavyweight, and Harry Hunsucker, his only takedown in the UFC that he's ever gotten. And that happened to be one of his 2 wins. Did he deserve to beat Tafa? He outlanded him 121-74. So yes, he did. Oh boy. I don't know anyone can. All right. It's a plus money number. There are reasons to like Jared. Let's go over the reasons to like Waldo first. Waldo's never been finished as a pro, while Jared's been finished in 6 of 9 pro losses and in 4 of 5 UFC losses. Waldo has the superior striking, both in power and in technical boxing. He has a boxing background, and he definitely hits very hard. His UFC metrics are much better, but it's a very small sample size, so that doesn't mean much. Vanderaa has a 43.3% striking defense, so that won't be a good thing against a guy with the power of Waldo. Now, Jared, he's got a 2-inch reach advantage here. He's a little bit younger. He's got 14 more professional fights, much more experienced, 130 more minutes in the pro cage. He's been a pro for 3 more years than Waldo has. Jared actually has the better finish rate as a pro, 83% to 71% for his opponent Waldo. And Jared has faced a better level of competition in his career without question. Look, I think Vanderaa is terrible. He has sub-zero fight IQ, and he hasn't landed a knockdown at the UFC level, and he refuses to wrestle even when he's at a huge striking disadvantage. Putting money on Jared Vanderaa for any reason, in my opinion, is just inexcusable, even if you're getting like plus 180. I just don't know how you bet this guy. I know people fade contender series guys, but guess what? Jared Vanderaa is a contender series guy. He beat Harry Hunsucker on the contender series. And then after having the best moment of his UFC career, he beats Harry Hunsucker in the first round. He's going to get a contract. And then he goes to meet Lorosenko. And what does he do? What does this big brain genius do? He calls out Sergey Spivak. I'm sorry. He calls out Sergey Spivak. And then what happens? Did he shave Sergey's ass? It actually didn't work out that way. No, did it? Sergey Spivak kicked the shit out of him for 572 consecutive seconds. He controlled him for 509 out of the 572 seconds. Basically, got controlled for almost 90% of the fight and then wound up getting knocked out. I mean, and yeah, the only win against Tafa. And, you know, if we look at Waldo Cortes-Acosta, you know, these last couple wins, man, Thomas Peterson is probably better than anybody that Jared Vanderaa has ever beaten in his career by a fucking mile. Mota is probably better than anybody he's beaten in his entire life. Danilo Suzart, I didn't think much of that dude, but I mean, Thomas Peterson is a legit fighter. LFA heavyweight champion prior to losing to Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Great takedowns, great ground and pound. Waldo Cortes-Acosta survived some bad spots on the ground there to wind up getting that win. But he just lands so many big shots. He's so much more powerful than Jared. So, I mean, I hate this spot for Jared. I've never been a fan of his. And I think that this is going to be a very bad night for him. And I think that Jared Vanderaa is probably going to be getting cut after Waldo Cortes-Acosta shaves his ass on Saturday. So the next fight that we're going to talk about here is Tim Means versus Max Griffin. Oh, and here are the lines, by the way. Waldo Cortes-Acosta, minus 194. Hard to lay that kind of juice on a debutant against a more experienced opponent in Jared Vanderaa. But like I said, there's a lot of reasons to like Waldo here. Fight doesn't go to decision. Sitting at minus 210 here. But we got Max Griffin at minus 180. Tim Means plus 155. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 120 here for the co-main event. Let me get the stats up on the screen. Okay. So we've got Tim's advantages are that he's the bigger guy here, 3 inches of height, taller than Max. He's also got the overall and the UFC experience advantages with 20 more pro fights, 75 more minutes in the pro cage, and 5.5 more years as a pro fighter. He has 12 more UFC level fights and almost 90 more minutes in the UFC cage. Tim's got the better finish rate in his wins, 75% finish rate for Tim Means, 61% for Max Payne. And then we've got Tim with the better UFC striking metrics thus far, as he's got the superior significant strike differential in comparison to Griffin, positive 1.38 for Tim Means, positive 0.42 for Max Griffin. And he's got the better striking defense as well. Tim Means 61% striking defense compared to 58% for Max Griffin. But that could be just a little bit deceiving because it just seems like whenever I watch Tim Means tape that he doesn't have great defense and he absorbs a lot of punishment. But the numbers are 61.26% striking defense. Might be a little bit inflated there for Means, but, it is what it is. The Means control time efficiency is better than Max Griffin's here. As we can see, Means has attempted 43 takedowns. His opponents have attempted more than twice as many at 96. And Tim has 17 takedowns, but his opponents have 32. But look at this. The control time's almost identical, despite the fact that it means opponents are taking him down twice as often as Means is taking down his opponents. So Means is very efficient here. He's hard to take down and hold down and win minutes on the ground against. Now, Griffin has a few less takedown attempts than his opponents, but he's gotten more of them. And he's just even with his opponents in control time. But, Griffin just a little bit better takedown defense on the aggregate. He absorbs less takedowns per 15 minutes, and he gets more takedowns per 15 minutes. So I would have to say if one of these two guys is more likely to be the one going out there looking for takedowns, looking to win minutes with the grappling exchanges, that would be Max Griffin. Let me hang on just a second here. Griffin is going to be 2 years younger, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. So we like some measurable aspects here for Griffin as well. He's more durable, as he's only been finished in 1 of 7 UFC losses as Max Griffin, while Tim has been finished 8 times in his career and in 5 of his 10 UFC losses. Griffin is the better wrestler, getting his takedowns at a 50% clip and averaging 1.48 takedowns per 15 minutes. In comparison to 1.02 for Means. Griffin also has the better takedown defense at the UFC level, 75% to 66.67. And Griffin also has the better strength to schedule at the UFC level, as we see a 1.52 ratio for Griffin compared to 1.26 for Means, and more total fights. And then if we look at the ratio in the wins, also better for Griffin, while the total fights is comparable. I think Griffin gets the job done here, probably by decision. I think he lands the bigger shots on the feet. He mixes in the wrestling, and I think he's really looked better recently. Both of these guys lost their most recent fights, but I thought Max Griffin beat Neil Magny, but that was a split decision loss. And prior to that, three straight wins over Carlos Condit, Song Kanan, and Ramiz Brahimaj. And let's face it, Griffin's last 2 losses were by split decision. So even when he's losing, he's in very close fights. While Tim Means is beating guys like Laureano Staropoli, Platinum Mike Perry, Nick Dalby, and then the losses both by sub in the last 5 to Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez. So I think Griffin is fighting the better brand of competition. I think Griffin will probably be landing the bigger shots on the feet. I think he's more likely to win minutes in the wrestling. He's younger. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage here. And I think he's been a lot hotter lately as well, as his losses are coming in razor close decisions while Tim Means is getting finished in his losses. So yeah, I'm picking Griffin to get the job done here, and I think he wins it by decision, which brings us to the main event, everybody. UFC Vegas 63's main event is going to be Calvin, the Boston finisher Kattar, against Arnold Allen. This is going to be a hell of a fight, and these are 2 great strikers. Very, very interesting fight. Let's get these odds up on the screen. Very close here. Oh, and by the way, how about my guy Smooth Jimmy in the house? It's 50 episodes of Just the Tip, and I wouldn't be able to do it without you, the viewing audience. But one of my mentors in this business is Smooth Jimmy Apollo, right 52% of the time. And he taught me that when you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time. Part of how we get through the ups and downs is realizing that the losing streaks don't last forever, and that we want to have that long-term mindset. So thank you to Smooth Jimmy for being one of my earliest mentors in this game, and I hope to continue making him proud with every forthcoming episode of Just the Tip from here on out, y'all. We've got 47 of you guys hanging out live with us on Just the Tip here. I appreciate each and every one of you. leave that thumbs up if you get a chance on your way out, as we're going to break down this main event right now. Arnold Allen coming in at minus 120. Calvin Kattar at plus 100. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 120 here. Holy shit, did I fucking X out? I X'd out. All my stats, you guys. This is incredible. All right, so let's do this. Let's get this back up on the screen. Restore window. There we go. Okay, finally. And there we go. A little bit of technical difficulties here on Just the Tip, but I am a one-man army over here, so I'm doing the best I can, everybody. But Calvin Kattar, let's go over his advantages first in this fight. He's going to be the bigger dude, 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage here. Cal has both the overall and the UFC experience advantages with 10 more pro fights, almost 115 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 5 more years as a pro fighter. He also has 2 more UFC fights and 55 more minutes in the UFC cage. The Boston finisher has the better finish rate, both as a pro, 57% for Kattar, 55% for Arnold Allen, but especially at the UFC level, where Calvin has a 57% finish rate compared to 33% for Allen. Even though Allen has never been finished as a pro, I have to give the durability advantage to Kattar, as he has only been finished once as a pro. It was by submission, and he's shown massive heart and toughness on several different occasions at the UFC level. Calvin Kattar's durability, heart, and toughness are not to be questioned. Kattar has done an excellent job of keeping fights standing. His fights have taken place at striking range for over 95% of his 171.63 minutes in the UFC cage, and he's shown 91.3% takedown defense on 23 career attempts against. So I feel that if one guy has the better chance to win minutes in the grappling or clinch exchanges here, it could be Kattar. Cal has fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio competition and the more experienced competition. Now, Arnold Allen, he's white hot right now. He's on an 11-fight win streak, and he's 9-0 in the UFC. He's 6 years younger. He's a southpaw, which is going to be difficult for Kattar to deal with. And he definitely has the way better UFC striking metrics, mostly because he's more defensively responsible. He has a 1.09 significant strike differential that's positive in comparison to Kattar's, which is negative 1.96. And he's boasting a 66.67% striking defense in comparison of 54% for Kattar. Allen only absorbs 2.22 significant strikes per minute, while Calvin Kattar is absorbing 7.15. So that's alarming. And a lot of people say it just has to do with the Max Holloway fight where he absorbed all those strikes. It's not the case, you guys. We can look here. And you see, like, he lands 130. His opponent lands 107. Here he gets a little bit more, 144 to 128. He gets outlanded here, 445 to 133. He outlands 105 to 84. He gets outlanded by 5 strikes here. He gets outlanded by 16 strikes here. Wins by 10, wins by 4. Gets outlanded by 75 significant strikes here, by 4 significant strikes here. So it wasn't just, that fight. It was the Moicano fight. It was the Magomed Shapirov fight. He gets outstruck in a lot of his fights. And he doesn't outstrike his opponents at massive ratios either. So he does absorb a lot of significant strike attempts per minute. And the reason that is because he is so durable, he can count on his chin, and he's willing to bet that he's going to land heavier than you are. Now, Allen also, let's see. Allen also gets his takedowns at a better clip than Kattar does. 50% takedown accuracy for Arnold Allen, 29.4% for Kattar. And he's getting more takedowns per 15 minutes as well. 1.41 takedowns per 15 minutes for Arnold Allen, 0.44 for Calvin Kattar. Allen gets more control time overall, 17.56 for Allen, 3.46 for Calvin Kattar. But, while Allen has been very good, I think it's very important to note here that Calvin Kattar has faced 23 takedown attempts in 11 fights. He's only yielded 2, and he's giving up 1.31% control time. So it's about 2 minutes of control time out of 171 minutes in the cage that Kattar has been controlled. So he's very difficult to take down and hold down. So seeing as Kattar has the bigger sample size of UFC experience here, and seeing that his fights stay standing 95% of the time, also seeing that this is a 5-round fight where wrestling needs to be saved for when you really need it, because offensive wrestling is exhausting and it's hard to pace yourself for 5 rounds if you're mixing in takedown attempts every single round, especially against a guy with 91% takedown defense. So I think that this is going to be a striking match. And while the numbers on the feet favor Allen, I think we just saw, similar matchups here with Dan Ige, Giga Chikadze, Jeremy Stevens, Josh Emmett. These are all guys that have a lot of power and are very good boxers who didn't take down Kattar at all. Emmett's a good wrestler. Ige's a good wrestler. Neither one of those guys was really having any success with the wrestling against Kattar here. So I think that this is going to be a striking match. And I think that Calvin Kattar is going to be very comfortable in that striking match, and that this is going to be a very close fight. It's a huge step up for Arnold Allen. It's a 5-round fight. Calvin's going to bring a war. I like Calvin here. He has the experience. He has the durability. He has the power, the toughness, and the high-level 5-round experience to get the job done here. I'm going to be picking Calvin Kattar to win this fight by late finish. I love the way that he goes after the finish when he lands a big shot. And I think that Arnold, is in a tough spot here. So, yeah, picking Calvin Kattar to win the last one, and I'm picking him to win it inside the distance. So we did it, everybody. We have broken down all 11 fights on this card. We're an hour and 51 minutes in. Let me take you through my tracked bets thus far on this card, which I thought I had up here. Okay, I don't have a banner with my tracked bets, but I'll just put them up on my Bet MMA tips, because there's only 2 of them thus far. Now, I am going to be looking to add to this. I am going to be looking to bet the under 1.5 for the Rogerio de Lima Arlovski fight at better than plus 200. But the only 2 tracked bets thus far were lines that I just felt were off. And they are the Park Holmes under 2.5 at plus 160. I bet that for 1.5 rounds or 1.5 units. And then I also have the fight goes to decision, which was at plus 195 on Bet Online for Gore versus Fremd. I bet that for 1 unit, and I'm probably going to arb out of that and probably get the fight doesn't go to decision, try to get it around minus 150 and just lock in whatever profit I can get there, because I could see Gore or Fremd landing a big shot there, and I could see Fremd causing some problems in the grappling exchanges for Gore. I could see that fight finishing, but plus 195 is just bonkers odds for that. So those are the only 2 bets thus far, but I'm looking to add the under 1.5 for Arlovski de Lima. And I also thought one of the other lines, I think Steve Garcia at plus 231 is just too fat. I'm probably going to have to take a shot on that. Chase Hooper, if this fight stays standing, there's no fucking way he comes even close to looking minus 270. And I'll hang my hat on Garcia's 100% takedown defense and the fact that he's a fairly well-rounded mixed martial artist, doesn't get enough credit for it. So I am going to be looking to add a money line bet on Steve Garcia at the fat plus number of plus 231 as well. Liking a lot of big plus money spots on this card. Not really willing to lay up the juice, and hopefully I can just make a couple of these hit. But those are the tracked bets for this particular card. So that leaves us with only one more order of business, everybody, and it is going to be Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. We have got to find the most dominant spot on the card. I think that there are a few good places here that we could put our money. C-Rod over Weems, I think, is a fantastic ass shaving of the week spot here. I'm very, very high on Christian Rodriguez, and Josh Weems has been finished in both of his pro losses. And Christian Rodriguez is a guy that I think is going to be able to avoid the submissions of Weems and get the job done here. But I didn't have enough time to study the tape on Weems, so I'm not willing to make that my ass shaving of the week. Durden Mota is going to be close. Hooper Garcia, I think, is going to play out closer than the line indicates. Same thing with Holmes Park. Arlovski Lima, Hawes Dolidze is a close fight. I like Fremd to beat Gore, but this week's ass shaving of the week, it's got to be Waldo Cortes-Acosta over the walking concussion Jared Vanderaa, the man with sub-zero fight IQ. My guy Prince Mischief called it before we started today. He put it out there again, the ass shaving prediction, Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I know my guy Luke said that he thinks Jared Vanderaa is going to surprise some people on Saturday. I get the reasons why you like him. His boxing's not bad. Vandera's boxing isn't bad. It's not like Cortes-Acosta, because he has this boxing background, is going to be that much technically better on the feet. But I just think that Waldo's got a lot more power. I think he's going to be better in the clinch. I think he's much stronger, much more athletic, and he's got the way better brand of competition. The way better conditioning. I don't think people talk about Cortes-Acosta's conditioning enough. It's really good, you guys. And Vanderaa, we'll just see if he even gets cleared to fight, because, he might get a concussion putting on his shirt before the fight. So, ass shaving of the week, Waldo Cortes-Acosta, Dominican Republic, stand up. Your guy is going to bring a razor and shaving cream into the ring and send Jared Vanderaa on his way out of the UFC with a 2-6 career UFC record. But if you don't count Dana White's Contender Series, we'll call him 1-5. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for getting your Uncle Weezy to 50 episodes of Just the Tip. I appreciate all of you that are here watching. I appreciate all of you that hit that thumbs up button. I appreciate all of you that hit that subscribe button. I appreciate all of my Patreon members. You help keep the lights on here for me and help make this financially worthwhile for me to put in all this work. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for getting me to 50, and let's get to 100 next. And let's find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 63. You can catch me tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio, 6 o'clock Central Time, for the DFS show with DFS by the Numbers, with Monk and with Gordo Gambles. Happy birthday, Gordo Gambles, who just had a birthday, I believe, yesterday or the day before. 21 years young, a young man making big waves in this business. Big up yourself, Gordo Gambles. And you can also find me tomorrow night right here on Uncle Weezy's channel, 10:30 Central Time. I'm going to be watching more tape between now and then, and we're going to be doing Ask Weezy so we can find more ways to place some great bets on this card that'll help us stack those tickets high, beat these bookies with a bag of oranges until we juice them, and buy yachts so that we can spend the rest of our lives doing exactly what we want to do when we want to do it. I thank all you guys for hanging out. I will see you guys tomorrow. And once again, let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 63. Take care, everybody.